Russian missiles struck the Ukrainian capital Kiev on Sunday for the first time in a month. The country's railway operator says one of its facilities was hit. Russia claims it was targeting Western-donated tanks. The attack came as President Volodymyr Zelensky visited troops and towns in the eastern Donbass region.
The Ukrainian president on the move. In the region of Zaporizhia, Volodymyr Zelensky met to talk strategy with local leaders. From there, he says he traveled to the towns of Lysychansk and Soledar, close to the current front lines in Donbass. This footage was published by Zelensky's office after his visit. I am proud of everybody I met, everyone I shook hands with, everyone with whom I connected with and expressed my support. We brought something for the military. I will not elaborate in detail on this. And there's something we brought from them to you. We brought you confidence. It's the second time the Ukrainian president has been seen outside of the Kiev region. The trip comes after the capital got hit for the first time in weeks. Both Ukraine and Russia have confirmed the attacks.
Russian Air Force's long-range missiles destroyed T-72 tanks on the outskirts of Kiev, supplied by Eastern Europe, and other armored vehicles located on the premises of a car repair business.
Ukraine says it was a rail facility and invited journalists to tour the plant, partially still in flames and without tanks.
This facility is totally peaceful and everyone can come and see. Of course, if there is some conspiracy theory, maybe they will use next morning saying that Ukrainian took away tanks from this facility, but you can see it's impossible to do.
As the details of the strike on Kiev were being contested, Russia's President Vladimir Putin warned of new attacks if the West sends long-range missiles to Ukraine.
If long-range missiles are supplied, we'll make certain conclusions and use our own means of destruction. We have enough to strike at targets we have not yet been hitting.
Away from the battlefield, Zelensky thanked troops and handed out awards to Ukrainian fighters, aiming to boost the military spirits.
I asked our correspondent Matthias Böllinger if Russian attacks are set to increase because of Western weapons deliveries to Ukraine.
Well, that's how Russia frames it. They are saying that they attack because of Western weapons deliveries. They have claimed that they hit these tanks in Kiev. But I think it's, of course, the question. Of course, Western weapon deliveries are a target for Russia. That's very clear because the aim of these attacks is to weaken Ukraine's infrastructure, military infrastructure, but also civilian infrastructure. Russia has hit on food storages and oil storages, and the question is, would Russia's attacks decrease if the West didn't deliver weapons? And I don't think the answer to that is very clear.
Yeah, good question, Matthias. Tell me, heavy fighting continues in the Donbass region. Can you bring us up to date on that?
Yeah, we are hearing that heavy fighting is still underway in Severodonetsk, where the two armies are meeting each other in the streets. We had heard about some successes yesterday by the Ukrainians, but it's very hard to confirm anything except that both armies are inside the city. And we've seen heavy attacks on other places. On Svetohirsk, this is one of the centers of the Ukrainian Christian Orthodoxy, where we've seen the church burning, one of a very historic church burning, and these attacks have continued today, and also on Lysychansk, one of the places that the president visited. Of course, this visit by the president is something that comes at a very crucial, at a very critical time for the Ukrainian army, where it's under massive attack, and he took quite a risk to go there.
Well, not only a risk, but it's an important message he's trying to get out there to his people, isn't it?
Of course, it's a message of defiance and support, and it is, of course, the aim is to boost the morale of the troops who are fighting there and who are having huge losses in this region. He has said it before that they are losing up to 100 soldiers per day. That's a significant number for an army, and a visit by him taking this risk personally is, of course, something that will have an impact on many of the these fighters.
DW correspondent Matthias Berlinger, thank you for the update. Our military analyst, Frank Ledwidge, joins us from Oxford. Frank, the UK is sending its first long-range missiles to Ukraine, despite Russia's threat. The US is supplying a rocket system. Are Putin's threats of more strikes just that, threats?
Let's not forget, Ben, that the Russians have already sent fired between 2,500 and 3,000 precision-guided missiles into Ukraine over the last 3 months. So we can certainly expect some more of that. One thing I think that is worth remembering is that we are required to treat, for example, this weekend, 5 cruise missiles into a European capital as something that sort of vaguely Russians might be entitled to do, but Ukrainians aren't entitled to strike back, which sadly is the reality of the situation. But to answer your question, yes, I think we can. We can expect the Russians to try and cut the supplies or hamper the supplies of Western equipment and to continue to do so.
Because, Frank, what I'm getting at is another question I wanted to ask you. Does Russia have the capacity this far into the war and considering all its losses to increase its campaign?
On the missile front, I think Western analysts are pretty doubtful that Russia would want to expend too many more missiles on these attacks. More widely, though, Ben, it looks as if Russia once again is culminating in the latest phase of its assault. It has serious problems now with manpower. And I don't think it's got the strength or the momentum to go much further than it has already. But back to the missiles, yes, they have the capacity to continue doing that, but they're going to be holding some back against the eventuality of NATO getting involved.
And what difference will these long-range missiles from the West make for Ukraine?
It's probably important to make the category distinction between long-range missiles and medium-range missiles. And these missiles are getting now, they're called M31s, both from the British and the Americans. These systems fire the same missiles, are medium-range missiles. So what they'll allow the Ukrainians to do is to strike into the Russian logistic rear. It's probably not beyond the border. I think both countries have given or demanded undertakings that doesn't happen. So they'll allow Ukraine to strike deep into the Russian rear, into their artillery and into their headquarters. They're very important, but let's not forget there are very few of these missile systems. So these are not long-range systems, they're medium-range missiles, about 80 kilometers.
There are so many unverified reports about the fighting in Severodonetsk in Donbass. Can you clarify the situation there?
As of this morning, Ukraine claimed, or elements of the Ukrainian intelligence claimed, that Severodonetsk is now well over half back in Ukrainian hands. Over the weekend, there have been significant, I think it's fair to say significant, counterattacks at that tactical level. They have taken ground back. And what that tells us is that the Russians are running out of steam there in that part of the campaign. They are having, as I said earlier, serious problems with manpower. That's a problem the Ukrainians yet don't have. And it's having that effect down there. So I think what we're seeing is a culmination of the Russian effort down there certainly in Severodonetsk.
And how would you say the war is going to play out over the next weeks, months?
Ben, you did say months, and I think it's going to take months, barring some intervention or remarkable sort of event. I see the Russian attacks starting to lose puff, as it were, over the next week or two. They may stand on the defensive. They may even declare some kind of success, particularly if they go further in the Donbass. Don't think they will. And then we'll be looking at Ukrainian major counterattacking offensives to retake land, probably later this year, perhaps even this summer. So this war is not near ending yet, nor even this phase.
Military analyst Frank Ledwidge.
Thanks, Ben.